The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the small apartment, mingling with the crisp autumn air drifting through the window. Arjun took a slow sip, letting the warmth settle in his chest. But today, the coffee didn't taste the same. It was his first morning without a job in 13 years. Yesterday, an email had arrived. Company restructuring. That was all it took to erase over a decade of work. He had stared at the screen, numb, before shutting his laptop and stepping out for a long, aimless walk. Now, the silence in his apartment was deafening. No rushed emails, no meetings, just stillness. And for the first time, Arjun had no idea what to do next. His phone buzzed, a message from his sister Meera. Heard the news. Let's talk soon. He sighed and ignored it. He wasn't ready for advice. Not yet. By noon, he forced himself outside. The city pulsed around him. People rushing to work, deliveries being made, conversations buzzing in cafes. He felt like a ghost, moving through a world that no longer needed him. Stopping at a small park, he sat on a bench and watched children playing. Their laughter rang through the air, free of worry. He envied them. An elderly man nearby closed his book and looked at him. Beautiful day, isn't it? Arjun nodded, managing a small smile. You look troubled, the man observed. Lost my job yesterday, Arjun admitted. Don't really know what's next. The old man studied him thoughtfully. Ah, a closed door. Arjun frowned. That's one way to put it. The man leaned forward. Do you know the best thing about closed doors? Arjun shook his head. They force you to knock on new ones. That night, lying in bed, the old man's words echoed in his mind. Had he been so focused on what he lost that he hadn't considered what he might gain? The next morning, he took out a notebook. Instead of listing job applications, he wrote things he'd always wanted to do but never had time for. Learn to cook properly, start a blog, take a photography course, volunteer somewhere. It wasn't a plan for financial security, but for the first time in days, he felt a spark of excitement. He started small, cooking an elaborate meal and failing spectacularly, wandering the city with his camera, capturing little moments he'd always overlooked. Then, on impulse, he signed up as a volunteer at a community center. The center was lively, kids needing tutoring, elderly folks seeking company, and people simply looking for someone to listen. One day, a teenager named Nisha approached him, holding up a camera. You know how to use this? Arjun grinned. A little. Let's figure it out together. As the weeks passed, he found himself looking forward to his time there. Teaching photography to young learners filled him with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. One evening, the center's director approached him. I've been watching you with the kids, she said. You're a natural teacher. Have you ever thought about doing this professionally? Arjun blinked. Teaching? Me? She nodded. We could use someone like you. That night, sitting by his window, he stared at the flickering city lights. A month ago, he had lost what he thought defined him. But maybe, just maybe, his worth wasn't tied to a job title. He opened his notebook and added something new. 5. Consider a career in teaching. For the first time in a long time, he felt hopeful. Doors had closed, but others were beginning to open. And this time, he wasn't afraid to knock. Moral of the story: sometimes life's setbacks are just redirections in disguise. When one path ends, another begins. You just have to be open to seeing it.